It's time to get back to a simple, pure, authentic love for hunting. No more overcomplicating or changing our heritage. Join host Shane Mowry, the Bone Maniac, as he brings you a real look at hunting. It doesn't take fame or fortune. It's for everyone. It's a way of life. It's in our DNA.
Okay, guys, we got a special guest. Well, I think he's a special guest. He's a longtime Fred Bear advocate and a shooter of bear archery there also. And Jim, it's great to have you on. I've been wanting to get you on and chew the fat for some time and talk about all those wonderful trophy hunts you've been on that I have not been fortunate enough to draw the tag. So, and the most important thing is shooting them with the stick. So let's dive right into it.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, you bet. So Jim, let's start off with just telling everybody a little bit of your background, because I'm eager also with bear archery. I mean, you living in Michigan, being around the whole Fred Bear persona, so to speak, your whole life. So I'm just anxious to hear, because I didn't grow up there. You know, I'm on the other side of the country, you know, where we have all those animals,
right?
But I can't get the tag. So yeah, I just love to hear I love hearing the stories of Fred Bear days, and more so of folks in your era, my dad's era. I'm almost 50, so it's kind of like I caught a little bit of it, but not as much as I'd have loved to live in the 70s.
Right. Yeah. All right. So yeah, I grew up here in Michigan. My dad was an avid bow hunter, and always shot bear archery stuff. And so did all his friends. So it was just like a natural thing because, like I say, I grew up with it. I started shooting a bear recurve, or I guess it was like a longbow, an older one from the 50s when I was a kid, like 5 years old. And then I just progressively went from there. And then, you know, one of the cool things about living here in Michigan is we would take yearly trips up north and we inevitably stop at the museum in Grayling. And we, you know, go in there. You see all those mounts. And, you know, the newest, latest, and greatest bows would be in there. There was a back room that would show all the videos. So that was a big inspiration to see all that, you know. And like I say, with my dad being a, you know, avid bow hunter, and he just bow hunted deer, him and his friends, you know, but we grew up on I grew up on a farm. And so then anyway, when I was going to be old enough to hunt, it was again another trip up to the Grayling Museum and picked me up a new bow, you know. Money I had saved up from working here and there, odds and ends. So when I'm 11 years old, I'm going to get a bow because I can hunt when I'm 12 legally. So, you know, did that trip, and I bought a Black Bear Magnum. So it's similar to the Kodiak Magnum, just like maybe didn't have the tip overlays in that. But anyway, that was my hunting bow that I hunted with for years till I was like 18. But I've always shot a bear recurve, you know, and hunted with bear recurves. I've tried a few other bows out, and there's a lot of good bows out there, but I've always just stuck to the traditional archery side of it. So that was pretty neat. Like I say, having that and always reading like the Fred Bear field notes, and seeing the movies and stuff like that. And the other thing, through a strange coincidence, I got to be friends with the caretaker at Grouse Haven. So obviously that's all bear archery. So I got to go there, you know, and spend a little time at Grouse Haven. So that was pretty fun too, you know.
Oh, absolutely, man.
Yeah.
Most people don't even know that name, you know, and that's sad.
Right. Yeah. So, and like I said, so that's always been just been my thing is, you know, bear archery and traditional archery. So it's I do gun hunt and I enjoy gun hunting, but
Sure.
You know, it's archery is the main thing I do.
Well, I was told, I'm sure you were too, growing up, it's like, son, you learn with that stick bow, that gun's going to be easy.
Yeah. Well, and that's it. You know, and that was the thing too, because like say in the evening we had some spare time, and I mentioned this to someone the other day that you don't see people doing this anymore, but my dad and I would go out and shoot our bows in the evening. You know, we had some just regular hay or straw bales up against the side of the barn that were covered, and we would go out and shoot in the evening, you know, and that's just something that you don't see people doing really anymore. You're not, you know, because once, say if you have a compound or a crossbow, it's sighted in and it's done and it's over with, you know. But it was fun. And even, you know, I remember my friends all coming over. We all shot recurves, you know, and a lot of them still do. And that was just something, our pastime, something we did. We didn't know any different, you know.
Well, absolutely. And, you know, you're saying those type of things, and stump shooting out here, of course, I'm sure you heard of it. I mean, we've done a lot of that, you know, too. And the kids, I just have at it, go out and just start shooting stuff. You know what I mean?
Yep.
As long as it's not the cattle.
Right. Yeah. And that was it, you know, and like you said, stump shooting or just whatever, small game hunting or bow fishing and stuff like that. That's the stuff that I always did, you know?
Well, yeah, you know, and I think, and we'll jump all around here a little bit, but I think those that's listening will follow where I'm going when we come back to full circle. Is was that not the type of information that Fred wanted to put out there to people, to just pick up their bow and go, you know, just therapy to the mind a little bit, therapy to your body or your friends.
Right. Right. And that's it. Like getting back to just like I said, shooting in the evenings or going out, walking around stump shooting or doing stuff like that. Yeah. And even like, as you get older, to me, it's like it removes you from the hectic day-to-day life, going to your job or doing whatever. And you just get away from everything, you know?
Oh, absolutely. And I think there's a lot to be said with that, of the everyday hustle, bustle, and grind and things like that. You know, I don't really care what goes on in life. We're pretty slow out here, you know?
Yeah.
And there's kind of Idaho Standard Time is kind of the joke, because it takes me 3 or 4 days that should have gotten done in a half a day.
Yep.
My wife usually tells me that, you know, it's like, you used to be really ambitious about getting those things done. I'm like, I look at life a little older now, or a little different now as you get older, you know? So,
yeah, definitely. That's how I am too. I just turned 60 last month or a month and a half ago anyway. And like 3 weeks ago, I just walked in and at the end of the day and signed my papers and retired. I had enough.
Good for you.
Yep. I had enough because I drive 40 miles down to the city each way to work, and I've been doing it for over 40 years, and I just had enough.
You said, yeah. Oh, I can imagine. Well, what's the closest city that you guys got? I'm always curious to know. Like,
well, the closest like big city, major city, would be Detroit, like 50 miles south of me. But for me to go into town is like one town is about 7 miles from me. The other one's 8 miles from me.
Oh, I got you.
In between everything.
But Detroit, that's a whole new animal, right? I mean, you say roughly under an hour you can be there, huh?
Yeah.
Depending on traffic.
Yeah. And the interstate runs right. Actually, the back of my property here, the interstate cuts through, and it's a direct shot right to Detroit. So.
Oh. Wow.
Yeah.
That part I don't envy.
No, you shouldn't.
Yeah. It's like, I remember driving through there one time, and I flew in a few times, but driving through, I was like, no, never again. You know, it's kind of like Chicago. You know, I was like, nah, don't want to do that.
Not good.
Don't want to do that. No. And that's been years ago. You know, I just refuse. Some places I just refuse to fly. You know.
Oh yeah, I understand that.
You know, and I'm really not much on flying. You know, I like being co-pilot, but I almost feel like I have a little bit of control. You know.
Yeah.
But if up in the air where I have absolutely no idea what's going on. I don't care for it. But anyway,
right.
That's another conversation. Well, yeah. I mean, and that's kind of like some of the things that I grew up and I had, which my granddad had got a bear cub. That was his bow, and he didn't hunt with it that I know of. I'd have to ask my dad, but I don't think so. My dad dabbled with recurve a little bit. He was more of a compound guy. Shot the Jennings with Tom for a lot of years, but that bear cub got back to me. Well, actually, I was able to take my first deer with that thing, but it's still here. It's going on 4 generations, you know. So I don't know if my son likes these 44 or 48 mag, you know.
Yeah.
So he loves that thing that Neil made for him, but I don't know if he's gonna get into that one. And plus, I want to say that my granddad bought that thing because I had Ryan look up the numbers and stuff like that, and I think it was 58 is what we come up with.
Okay.
When it was made or whatever. And I don't know how it didn't like blow apart. It just one day out of my head, I was like, Dad, do you remember that old bow? I'm like, I know Pap let me use it. I had it, I've shot it, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, where's it at? Like 6 months go by and he's like, hey, found something. I already forgot about it. It's that time, you know?
Yeah.
I'm like, found something, I'll slip over, you know, bring it over to you, whatever. And here it was. Now, it wasn't, yeah, I was like, holy cow, I remember, like, I was 12 or 13 at that time, too, you know, it was just a whitetail, doe or whatever, but just having those type of memories. And because out west, like, normally, like, you know, bear's not a big name, right?
Right.
I mean, they know, but it's not like the go-to stick, you know, or something like that.
Right. Yeah. Definitely. I think it was more prevalent in the Midwest and stuff like that, you know, back in the day.
Sure. Yeah. But just understanding that whole history of it and going back to it and then talking to folks that's lived so close and things like that, you know, it's just talking with some of the guys over at Boeing and some of the old notes that Fred and Rollins would have. You know, and sharing that, I was like, I just got to get out there and see it. You know what I mean? So it's like, but I never had the opportunity, and now it's coming around. Maybe I'll get there before I croak. But
right.
But just coming up with those whole history things. It's a lot, and I guess my thing is like how I like talking with folks is within the Fred Bear world, I should say. Do you feel like what inspired Bear back then is the same as the inspiration today, with how Fred visioned things and how like folks today vision archery?
Well, I think that Fred Bear's vision was a little bit or a lot different, probably because he was trying to promote archery and promote bow hunting across, I mean, basically globally, but, and he was doing it through his hunting trips. He wasn't, you know, he was promoting archery. He wasn't promoting himself. It was to promote archery and to give people, I guess, a different avenue to get out in the woods. And that's why he, you know, Bear Archery always was an advocate of become a 2-season hunter, you know, it's gun hunt and bow hunt. So basically, I think what my point is, Fred Bear was doing it to grow the industry, grow the sport. I mean, that's why he left his patents open for other bowyers to use and other, you know, stuff like that. And they always were comparing stuff back and forth. I think maybe people start out nowadays wanting that, but it seems to get sideways a lot. And everyone's everyone's looking for accolades. Like, you know, I accomplished this, I accomplished that. I should be recognized for it. You know,
they forget real soon that, you know, there's nothing monumental in life that's ever done alone, you know, nothing.
Right.
You know,
exactly.
And I'm glad you made that point because, you know, from my understanding, he did leave a lot of those patents open for other bowyers to take a look at, especially with the Allens, you know, when he got into the compound stuff with Allen and stuff like that. And Tom, you know, Jennings, I know they were always comparing things back and forth. Just through my research and hear my dad talk when he shot with Tom and stuff like that, you know, but
so he just, you know, he just basically did everything he could to promote archery, you know. That's why if you like really read a lot about it, they would take dozens of arrows and spare bows. And he would just basically leave that stuff, you know, and he was always just trying to promote it for the well-being of the sport and to get interest in the sport. You know, even if you just did it as recreation, as a family thing.
Yeah.
So like I say, it wasn't about Fred Bear, but obviously he had to be Fred Bear, be the face of the company during that time,
Well, sure. Well, and I think he promoted it in a way that didn't pound his chest.
Right.
Right.
It was just that what had to be done to promote the industry,
Oh yeah, 100%. I think we've gotten away from that a lot, in the industry. What do you think the main culprit of that is?
What the main culprit.
We both hate it.
It's social media.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
I understand that's where the whole marketing times have gone or have went to. I don't even have a website anymore. What's the use? Nobody's going to look at it.
No.
So it's one of those things where unless you're shopping or whatever, but now you can shop on Instagram or you can shop on Facebook. So it's like,
right.
It's a whole new learning curve. It's an animal in itself.
Yeah. And it's changed everything. Even, we were talking last weekend, and it's hard to even sell books anymore or even magazines.
Yeah.
Because people aren't reading like they used to. And me, I love reading them. I want a book,
Mm-hmm.
I love to read books, and I've always read books, and I think that was a lot of the inspiration for me to go on these hunting adventures and stuff throughout the years. But people just don't do that anymore. They don't take the time. And so if you publish a book, it may be a hard sell,
Yeah. Yeah.
So like you say, some people don't even have websites anymore. So,
well, that's true. It's one of those things where it's just slowly going away.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know if it's slow. I think it's kind of been rapid.
Yeah.
If you stop and look back at it a little bit, or it seems that way anyway for me, because it's like, just yesterday.
Right. Yeah. I say, look at yesterday. I guess the internet or cell phones are knocked out all over across the country or something. I didn't know. I don't really care. It doesn't bother me a bit.
I was actually praying for it.
Right. I never take my phone anywhere. Half the time my wife's always yelling at me, "You don't have your phone with you." I go, and I don't care,
Well, right. Yeah. I think we've gotten sideways on that to a lot of degree. It's sad to say. It really
it is. And I mentioned to you the other day when we were messaging, I don't even have an iPhone or smartphone. I just got an old flip phone. It makes a phone call and I text. I'm good with that.
Yeah. So that's why it takes you so long for you to reply.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
That's the same way. My dad's the same way. I'm like 45 minutes later, I'll just call me.
Yeah, that's why I say, what's wrong with making a phone call? Well, people don't like getting phone calls. They want to text. I'm like, what? Yeah, that's the new thing. So whatever. I'm definitely calling you then. If it's making you mad, I'm calling you.
No, it doesn't make me mad. I think people are just too fast paced in life, and that's I don't know. I mean, it's we kind of look at things. We're going back to the homeschooling deal. Just more interaction with our kids, and
that's good.
And it's before long they're grown, and like we have all the kind of resources to have a good life, but people don't utilize them.
Right.
And it's the same thing with archery. I think archery is very therapeutic, and I think we've gotten off course of not only with what the Fred Bear standard is, but it's just life in itself. I mean. Archery's been along for a long time, whether it's been recreation or hunting, so it's definitely a situation where I think folks just kind of, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for, but they just overlook it a lot.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, like when me and my friends get together, we'll go shoot a 3D shoot that's somewhere. We'll drive over to a 3D shoot. It's almost inevitable. We're all laughing and just having a good time. And obviously there's going to be a lot of compound shooters in there. Sometimes these guys are like, "Hey, you guys, what's going on over there? Why are you laughing and goofing off so much?" Or whatever. Or they don't get it. And we're like having fun. And nothing against compound guys, but they just get too serious. We're just shooting quick and just having fun and laughing, and to us, it's just, we don't take it that serious. You know what I mean?
Well, no. Now that you brought that up, is like, why do you think, like, because I shoot a stick. I have a compound. I don't really care if it's a form of me being able to get me or my kids or my friends out and
Right.
learn something.
I agree 100%.
I don't care. It's just I love my stick bow. I like shooting with stick bow.
Right.
And usually if they're up close and personal, I usually don't miss, But if I'm with the compound, I'm probably going to miss sometimes. You know what I mean?
Well, and I agree with you, because I've got a good friend of mine. He'll grab one of my recurves and he shoots it just fine, but he just can't get his head wrapped around that. And he still shoots a compound, but he shoots the compound instinctively, no sights, and he cants the bow just like a recurve. And I'm like, Dave, what are you doing? He's like, I can't get my head wrapped around. He likes, I guess, that reduction in weight when he's at full draw, and it gets him focused better, and that's great. That's what he does. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. So
I just hate that, because there's the elitist, whatever you want to call them, they sit at the round table on some of these traditional shoots, and sometimes they'll stub your nose and, at me. I'm like, well, you're not just totally 100% stick. And I'm like, well, no, but that's what I'm shooting today. know?
I understand that totally. Or I even get it because I gun hunt, and I know it's been brought up in the past, and I joke around with guys about it, and because it was brought up, oh, you're not a real bow hunter because you pick up a gun. I'm like, what? Well, I enjoy gun hunting. I enjoy hunting with a muzzleloader, and I just enjoy hunting in general. And if it's in season and it's legal, and I'm not breaking the law, then so be it. To each their own. If you don't want to pick up a gun, fine. If you don't ever want to pick up a bow and you only gun hunt, that's fine too. I don't care.
What is it with people with that?
I don't know.
We have so many other antis out there. You're constantly, it's the only thing you hear is these nonprofit organizations constantly in a fight with politicians or with activists or stakeholders, and then here we are as hunters constantly bitching to one another about what weapon of choice that you're able to shoot an animal with. Right.
I agree 100%. Obviously, I don't agree with the crossbow being allowed in the archery season, but that's my opinion.
Sure.
You know what I mean? That's just my opinion on that, because I don't feel that. I don't care that if you use a crossbow in the crossbow season or whatever, but don't say a crossbow is the same as a bow, because it's two different things.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's just my personal opinion, but whatever you do and you're not breaking law, I really don't care, because I hunt for meat.
Well, right.
And
you're exactly
meat in the freezer for my family to live on. And that's what we do. We live on wild game.
Yeah.
So, and that's just how it is. So,
well, yeah, it's a lot better for you anyway.
Right. Exactly.
And you made a very good point. So crossbow is definitely different. And I agree with you on the crossbow and the bow season. Take, for instance, the muzzleloaders are almost just, some of them can shoot as far as straight casing rifles, right? So
absolutely. I've shot deer at 300 yards with my muzzleloader.
Well, yeah. Point
so
taken.
I'm guilty of it too. I have a gun built out of Night Custom Shop, and I've killed deer at 300 yards across these farm fields with that gun,
crazy,
with a muzzleloader. So it's no different with that inline. It's no different, but I really enjoy the older traditional style muzzleloaders as well. So yeah, that's, to me, is that hunting? Well, I guess you're hunting, but it's really good shooting is what it is.
Exactly. But point taken is that there's a muzzleloader season, which they should have a crossbow season. That's kind of what I was getting at.
Yeah, right. And do I think inline muzzleloaders like this should be used in? Well, Michigan doesn't even. We don't really have a technical muzzleloader season anymore, because you can just run. It's a mess here right now with the guns during the deer seasons. But anyway, I just think that, like, if it's going to be a muzzleloader season, maybe it should only be with traditional style muzzleloaders. But again, that's my opinion. What you do, your business. I don't care. It's not affecting me. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. So,
well, you're exactly right. And I think a lot of people need to get back to those ways and not give a shit what somebody else thinks. You know what I mean?
Right. I don't care. Or if someone if I let a buck walk and the neighbor kid shoots it or the neighbor guy shoots it, I'm not mad because I personally didn't want to shoot it.
Sure.
I'm more than happy for them because they're happy.
Right.
And that's just how I've always been. Or I've said this to other people before, my friends laugh. If I may shoot a buck today that I passed up a week ago, just because the circumstances were different, the way the whole thing went down.
Right.
And I'm not a trophy hunter. I look for the overall experience,
Well, yeah.
And that's just how I am,
Right. And I think more people need to get back to that.
Yeah.
Instead of this guy over here, and I don't care whichever, because there's always folks out there who's got more money or more experience or more this than somebody else.
Right.
But as today, as the society is, I think is like, we can just get on, look at our handheld devices and look like, oh man, so-and-so just killed a 490 or a 490 stag in, Australia. I'm just using my buddy. Or they shot a 385 bull, down in Utah. And I'm like, oh, wow, I couldn't afford that. But that doesn't make me want to go out here and try to keep up with Paul and the Joneses and go kill something and just to have a post. You know what I mean?
Right. Nope. I
think
agree.
There's a lot of that.
Yeah. And I can't, like to your point, I can't afford to go on these high end hunts and all that. All my hunts have always been DIY hunts, except for when I hunted Dall sheep in Alaska. And that was obviously because I needed a guide, by law. But other than that, it's always, DIY and, and that, my Dall sheep hunt in Alaska, I never was thinking, wow, that's a ton of money. When I got like a super killer deal and I spend more probably on our DIY moose hunt right now than I did on that Dall sheep hunt. So that's the only reason I went. So because to your point, I just don't have that kind of money, do all these.
Right.
So,
well, and it goes back to, getting we talked a little bit about that before. Is like, we have a bunch of points in a lot of states, and there's a lot of folks that has a bunch of points in a lot of states. But if you look at the overall consensus, there's hunters are down, they say, as far as sales and purchases.
Yep. That's
so
what
why is there so much point creep?
I don't understand it either. Cause I know you and I talked about this. This year, it'll be 35 years I've been putting in for Maine for a moose tag. So I have max points, but I can't seem to draw it. I've drawn a moose tag in Vermont, New Hampshire, one time with 3 points. The other state was with like 5 points. I drew a mountain goat tag in Utah with 3 points. And my buddies turned me on to putting in Utah. When I drew the tag, it was my third try, or I had 3 points. So the fourth try, that was in 2012. My buddies that turned me on to that, they're still putting in to this day and haven't drawn in Utah. So, that's what, 12 years ago. Well, this year will be 12 years, but, and then I drew an antelope tag in Utah the one year on my very first try. And it said that, I think you had to have 9 points, and I drew the very first try. So I don't understand the system and how it works, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's it's strange. Half the time I'm like, I tell my wife all the time, it's like, I'm flagged. I don't know what I did, but I'm flagged.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's kind of how I feel in Maine, because I got a friend of mine, he drew on his 8th try. He had 8 points. And at the time I had 20 something points, and he drew a moose tag in Maine. Last year I drew that mountain lion tag with 6 points in Utah, and they said it takes the minimum of 19.
Unreal.
So, yeah. So, I mean, I kind of know why I drew that tag. It was they had changed the dates on the lottery. And so it was 6 months earlier than it had always been previously. I think people just missed it.
I see. Yeah.
So I think that got
good for you, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm not
take it. I'll take it.
Yeah. Right. So, but
I don't
know. Like I say, I've got a ton of sheep points out west and stuff like that. So hopefully in my lifetime that comes. I don't know. Another friend of mine told me this weekend, he heard something about this point creep in some states that you're almost better off not having all those points.
Well, I don't know that too.
Yeah, I don't know how it works actually. So
it's a strange deal. I don't think in my generation side of things, I don't think we'll ever be able to, and maybe not in your generation either, to be able to, from starting in from the time you're hunting, say 12 years old, to be able to complete a 29 by drawing the tag. I just don't think it's possible anymore.
It's not. And, there's some species like, we were just talking about this last weekend too. You can't hunt the Quebec Labrador caribou herd.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm literally in Canada, I'll say 15 minutes from my door. All right. And I could just drive up and hunt those caribou all the time in Quebec if I wanted to. And I'm like, no, I can just drive there and go hunt them. I'll just do it whenever.
Mm-hmm.
And I never did it. Now it's closed. Well, we did a little research last weekend, and you can actually still hunt caribou and Labrador. So it still would qualify for one of the animals in the 29 if that's what you wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're trying to say they're going into Manitoba too, which that was kind of didn't make sense to me. But anyway, but the hunts are like astronomical, you know. And it's just like these sheep hunts, for like stone sheep or desert bighorn or even bighorn. All the sheep tags are, or if you got to go shoot a polar bear or a brown bear.
Yeah.
I mean, you just can't do it, I mean, I can't do it.
We'd have to sell our homes.
Yeah, you would have to, and even if you get deals, I mean, I had a deal back in the mid to late 90s to go on a polar bear hunt for $13,000. It was a cancellation and I didn't do it. And you could still import them at that time.
Yeah.
And financially at that time, I could have done it. I had the money, but I just couldn't think of spending that much money. And now I'm kicking myself,
Oh man. You're like, those opportunities just don't happen anymore, right?
No, and it's never gonna happen again,
No.
So
no, why do you think that is? Do you think I know we're jumping all over the place, but these are just bouncing things over, and I like seeing guys, seasoned archers, tell me their thoughts, because why is that? What is? I mean, you hear about the caribou like you were just talking about in Labrador, and I've read about that too. And they say the lichen is, they have more excuses than they have answers, right?
Right.
So, the decline, or there's no tags, or is it just poor management? Where I just cannot wrap my head around these people making all this money that goes into these nonprofit organizations funding, research. Well, is it going to somebody's, wage, or are we actually making headway? Because I don't see that we're making headway because we don't have tags. We have decline on herds. We have more wolf releases, hard releases more than ever. And I just cannot wrap my head around what the hell is going on and why. It's just, it blows my mind.
I don't understand it either, because about a year ago, another friend of mine who's actually lives in Northern Ontario, that's, it's just a black bear outfitter. They have a friend that lives in Quebec, and they said the caribou are there. The numbers aren't what they were, say, back through the 80s and 90s, but the caribou are still there. There could be a limited regulated hunting, so I don't understand what the deal is with that. But I do know, back through a lot of the 90s, I hunted the Mulchatna herd in Alaska.
Mm-hmm.
And it was insane how many caribou there were. I mean, I've got hours of video that you just hear all day long. Non-residents, we could shoot 2. My buddies that were residents that I'd hunt with, I think they could shoot 4 or 5.
No kidding.
So, and it was nothing to shoot the caribou, and now there's none left. And I don't, they're blaming it on the predators, the wolves, the bears, the brown bears. And I will say this, when I started hunting like in the early 90s, the mulch hat in a herd, by the end of the 90s, we would rarely see a brown bear or grizzly bear on the mountainside. You see black bears. We would shoot a lot of black bears too. I seen in like a 5 or 6 year span, you'd hardly see a black bear, but you'd see more and more brown bears, and we'd see more wolves. So I'm sure that has a definite impact on it. And I know that in the one section, I don't know if it's all, I think it was Unit 19. They made it so you could shoot 2 brown bears a season.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, for a while there. I don't know if it's still that way, but they were trying to knock the predators back down because they're having a devastating impact on the caribou herds, and moose as well. And I think that's across the board. I mean, this stuff that Colorado just did with the wolves, come on, you already, I mean, I just read a report this morning, actually, now that came out, that they're finally saying, yeah, we made a mistake in Yellowstone by releasing those wolves. And I don't know if you read that report. It was posted this morning, and they're finally saying, I
didn't read it yet, no.
Yeah, so they're saying, yeah, we made a big mistake. Okay, and we've all known that. The general public has known that. We're not stupid.
Anybody that's been there has known that, right? Yeah,
right. And they talked about the elk herd numbers, how much they've been decimated, and this. And the reality was, if you read the whole report, the reason that they wanted the wolves introduced into Yellowstone because the elk and the bison and mule deer were overgrazing a plant they were worried about becoming endangered, a native grass. That's why this was done, and it hasn't helped. Okay. So, and then obviously Idaho, look at what happened there. And then Colorado was like, oh no, it's not going to be like that. Well, what? It's something different in Colorado. It's going to be worse in Colorado. Like Absolutely. We talked about, because the terrain is so much different,
It's
so
going to be a bloodbath.
It's going to be. I mean, I just don't understand it. If you ever, there's a book that, it's called The Wolf Man. I think the Alaska Wolf Man or whatever. This guy, he had his own wolves, and he talks about the wolves. And this book is amazing to read. And it talks about, this guy raised wolves, had them as his sled dogs, and he could do anything with these wolves. And like, if he'd go to town, he'd just stay away from my dogs, But if you read that book, and there's a part in that book, he talks about how, like, in deep snow, there'd be herds of caribou, and a pack of wolves go in there and they just wipe them out. They kill all of them because they go blood crazy. So people say that, they only take the weak or the down. They don't. They're opportunists. A wolf lives 24/7 its entire life in a state of hunger.
Oh, yeah.
A coyote does the same thing. A fox, any animal that's predatory like that, they live in a constant state of hunger, looking for their next meal. So when opportunity presents itself, they're going to take advantage of it.
And you make a good point, because folks don't understand, predators. And I think that a lot of them don't, because they don't hunt them, or they hunt coyotes. The guys that are really effective coyote callers in the Midwest and back east, they'll tell you, I'm sure, but out west with the mountain lion, which I have the utmost respect for, but the wolves, I don't think folks really pay attention to, how they hunt, how they kill. And folks in general just have never had to go. You make a point, state of hunger, they do, because it may be 2 weeks before they eat, but when they do, they're killing,
Right.
And it's just that opportunity. But there's so many of them now that there's, they stay really close to the herds of elk. Our mule deer population, regardless of what Fish and Game says, I see it every day because I'm out there. They're just not there. They're not like they used to be. You know? And they don't understand, just what those savages do.
Right. And they're like, and people are like, well, we can manage it. And this. And I shot, like, I'll hear it. Well, I shot a coyote or whatever. And okay, well, that's good. But you're still not doing enough, because they're a dog and they're having 6-8 pups every single time. Okay. So do the math, you have to manage it. And they're like, I know between me and a couple of my buddies and their sons within like a 3-mile area here, in just over 3 years now, we've killed 60 something coyotes in just this little area. And they're still all over. We're not putting it in it. And now they're in Michigan just said the other day, well, because we can hunt them year round. We think we're going to put a season back on the coyotes and limit when you can take them. Oh, okay.
Really?
Yeah. All right. Well, I know why they want to do it, because people aren't shooting enough deer, but it's not going to make a difference. Like, don't protect them. They're everywhere. When I grew up because I live a mile from where I grew up, you never saw a coyote around here. It's only been in the last 20 years we've gotten all these coyotes down here in the thumb part of Michigan, and it's crazy how many there are. We got when I work down in the city towards outside of Detroit, I'm 2 miles out of Detroit. There's railroad tracks cut through there. There's coyotes on there all the time in the city, So they're opportunistic, but and just like the wolves. But wolves, like I say, or especially wolves, they're in a constant state of starvation or hunger.
Yeah,
and people don't understand that.
No, and it's I've kind of made a commitment to myself because I'm just tired of going out, not hearing elk, not being able to see elk. I can't call them; they don't talk. And I'm like, you know what? We're not going to be able to, band together and rely on Fish and Game or the Fed or whatever,
right.
to take care of this problem. We got to take care of it ourselves, So I'm like, I got to be a better wolf hunter. I got to figure this shit out,
Yeah.
And so I don't need to post all of it. You know what I mean? It's like whatever, because we can hunt them year round.
Right.
We can trap her on our own property year round, as long as it's on private property.
Right.
You can. So, and I'm not the most effective trapper, but I'm learning, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially with those things. And they're very smart. They're ridiculous as far as how smart they are.
Yeah. They're apex predator. I mean, they are super smart,
Oh, they're ridiculous. Yeah. It's, but having said that is it's up to the guys, the hunters. If you're an elk hunter, you need to be a wolf hunter. It needs to happen. Everybody enjoys a good elk hunt. You enjoy calling them in. You enjoy killing. You enjoy eating them. Everybody does. We get it, but you need to be a better wolf hunter. You know what I mean?
Yeah, or take advantage of. I don't know how many times I've heard. Oh, I had a couple nice coyotes come by me this morning when I was out deer hunting. This would be in the gun deer season. I go, you didn't kill them? Well, I didn't want it to wreck my deer hunt. I go, listen. It's wrecking your deer hunt because you didn't kill them. I've got pictures I've shot coyotes and 15 minutes later shot a deer, or 10 minutes later shot a deer.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't matter, is you're not wrecking your hunt. You're wrecking your hunt by not shooting them.
Oh, 100%.
Hey, coyotes, wolves, they're beautiful animals. All right. And I respect them, but they need to be managed. And some people don't get that. They think, that much, or the coyotes don't this. I was out yesterday in the woods almost the entire day, and you wouldn't believe how many piles of scat I found from coyotes. They're just filled with deer hair. So we have no snow this winter. They're killing them on bare ground. They're not finding dead deer or weak deer because the deer are thriving. They're killing them. It's that simple.
And more people need to be aware of it. But do you think the antis, they have more money than hunters, obviously, right? Because they're the ones winning. They're the ones winning, Jim.
I mentioned this to you, and I mentioned this to a buddy of mine. I said, when they introduced the wolves to Colorado, I go, well, we all know what's going on with the political side of Colorado right now. But anyhow, I said, the antis just won that battle.
Yeah.
And they go, how's that? I go, well, those wolves are going to just go absolutely crazy. They're going to multiply. And they're going to wipe that state slick, just like they did in Yellowstone and in Idaho. And that's what the antis want. They don't want opportunities for hunters to hunt. So it's a way to backdoor it in so the hunters suffer, because the tags will be reduced dramatically.
Oh, sure.
Because the animals just won't be there to hunt. So it's a win. That's why they supported it so much. They were just rejoicing that the wolves are getting released in Colorado, which is absolutely ridiculous because they already had proof from the biologists that wolves already existed in northern Colorado. So why are you adding more to it?
I've seen dog tracks in San Juan. You know what I mean? So they're there. Right. But they just have a big range.
Right. Absolutely.
They have a huge range, and like you said, it's a state of hunger. What are they doing? They're searching for food constantly. They're searching for something to kill because that's
Right.
what's programmed up here, you know?
Yeah.
And that's just how it is. You know, people don't get it. You know, but to say that, it was like, I know that some of those releases, those hard releases there that just happened in Colorado, really close to Wyoming. So maybe they'll just push them over to the Wyoming folks and they'll take care of it.
Yeah, right. Let's hope. I don't believe Wyoming's going to put up with that.
No, they won't. Well, the folks there definitely won't. You know, that whole area there is, you know, there's a lot of cattle ranchers over there.
Yep.
So, you know, they're not going to put up with that, and nor should they. They shouldn't have to. You know, the cattle commission shouldn't have to deal with that.
No,
at all.
No, they already.
You know,
I mean, if you look into that anywhere that there's cattle ranching going on, and you know, because you probably have cattle, but when them calves are dropping, those coyotes alone will get after them calves.
Yeah.
So then you add a wolf into it.
Yeah.
You know what's going to happen. Those are all,
100%.
you know, everything's free range, right? If you're free ranging everything out there, when they're calving, you got a problem.
You got a problem. And normally, like from March to April, there's a lot of calving season going on. It's going on now, starting, but that's when I usually start seeing these guys coming down into the valley. You know, and they know. I mean,
yeah, they know.
Kind of like when the salmon are run, all the eagles start coming up to Clearwater. I mean,
Yep.
Listen, they're programmed. They're
right.
programmed to do it. You know, and
right.
I just don't understand why folks don't see it. Well, I think they know. It's just they have an agenda.
Right.
You know?
Of course, there's always that. They didn't just arbitrarily release wolves into Colorado because they thought it was a good idea. There's an agenda.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So,
Just because you and I and 15 million other hunters out there enjoy the sport and they don't want us to do it.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, I think that's the reason.
That's my thoughts. You know, it's a way to reduce opportunity because there won't be the opportunity. There won't be as many animals to hunt, you know?
Well, yeah. If you don't have anything to hunt, well, why do you need that hunting rifle?
Right.
Yeah. You know, so there's a lot that goes into it. If you just think a little bit and you'll start figuring it out, I think, you know, anybody,
right.
You know, as far as that's concerned, but yeah, it's a crazy world that the hunting industry is in, you know.
Yeah.
Just, you know, and my thing is like, if anybody's listening, is like, there needs to be more unity within the hunting group.
Absolutely.
And people be a little more classy about classy, I guess maybe that's not the right word, but like nobody cares what the Joneses are doing. Just do your own thing. You know what I mean?
I agree. I don't care if, like you say, if someone shoots a giant buck every year, I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm happy for you. And I don't care if you shoot a spike every year. I'm happy for you.
Right.
You're not breaking the law. I don't care. Shoot what makes you happy. And that's what I've always said. You know, that's just me personally. Like I say, everyone, you know, I've heard some of my friends, man, you've killed so many white-tailed deer in your life. Don't you just want to wait and only shoot giant bucks? I want to shoot a giant buck every time.
Yeah.
But I like eating them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, here's my thing is the wife usually says, why don't you just start shooting does? They don't stink.
Yeah. And I'm guilty of that too, because we didn't shoot any does this year. And I'm guilty of it, and I need to. I mean, yesterday I was telling my wife last night when I came in, I said, I couldn't even count how many deer I seen yesterday. It's just ridiculous. You know?
No kidding.
Oh yeah, there's just a ton of them. You know, the last day of the season this year, I was just out trying to fill a doe tag, and that was January 1st. And in just one hayfield by me, I had 28 deer come out in that field. 8 of them were bucks. And of course, the 8 bucks are all in range of my bow, you know?
No kidding. Oh, wow.
Yeah. But that's this one 20, say that field is 20 acres. They came into, you know, I couldn't see the other fields on the farm, but, you know, that's just one field. So the herd's definitely, I mean, when I grew up if I went out back behind the farm in the woods or that was goofing off and do whatever, and I jumped up a deer, and I'd go up and tell my dad, he'd kind of really, or people be talking about really, because there was hardly any deer.
Mm-hmm.
This is like in the mid 70s, late 70s, but then like as it got into the 80s, we started seeing more and more deer, and it got to the point then all of a sudden we could shoot 2 bucks here in Michigan. You could shoot a buck with a gun, and you could shoot a buck with your bow, because if you shot like in bow season, let's just say when I grew up, when I first had my hunting license, if I shot a buck with my bow, I couldn't gun hunt unless I drew a doe tag. Then they went to the 2 bucks. You could shoot 2 bucks. Then you could draw the doe tag for the gun season, so which was great. Then they went to 4 bucks. And we could shoot 2 with the bow or 2 with the gun. Then you could get a doe tag, and everybody. So that was like, I want to say they only did that for 2, 3, or 4 years. Then they went back to just 2 bucks, and it's been like that all along. But we could shoot until like 5 years ago. We could shoot a doe a day if you wanted to buy a tag.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. So for 90 days, you could shoot 90. No one's going to do that, obviously. But now they went back to.
Well, you don't know.
Yeah. Right. But they went back to this. We're allowed 10 does and 2 bucks, but they upped the doe tags to like $30 a pop. They want to know why people aren't killing does. They went from $10 to $30. Well, if you're not processing the meat yourself and you start taking it in and start doing the math on everything, it's not that cheap.
No.
Not
for 50 pounds of meat, right?
Yeah. And I mean, 50 pounds, right? I hear that all the time. I got 80 pounds of meat off that deer. No, you didn't.
They didn't do much processing, have they?
No, I love hearing that, because I don't care. You get 35 to 40 pounds of meat off a big deer, bone out, so. But anyway.
Yeah. That's you hear it a lot too. Like the same way with, especially bear. It's like, that bear's 400 pounds. No, it's not.
Right. Yeah, bear.
That's 150 pound bear.
Yeah, bears are deceiving. I know the first bear I ever shot. Well, the first bear I ever shot was in Ontario, and it was legitimately on the outfitter scale. If it was on, it was on. I don't know, but where I shot it, it was close enough to the trail that we could get it to the trail on a 4-wheeler into the truck. Yeah. Back to his house to skin it and process it. And it was 301 pounds. So that was the first bear I shot. The first bear I shot here in Michigan, when it came in, I thought it was probably pushing 200 pounds. And then same deal after it was gutted and everything, and we weighed it, it was 145 pounds. So it was probably like a 175 pound bear, but that's the average bear.
Yeah.
And I was more than happy with it,
Oh, heck yeah.
But, everyone, bears are hard to judge, especially you haven't done it.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been fortunate to, take several bears, since then. And now I'm getting a little bit better at judging them, after you shoot them. So
absolutely. They're one of the hardest animals to judge. They really are.
Yep.
It's a tough deal for them. There's no doubt,
Yeah. But I love hunting them.
Yeah. Most of the time, like I took my son bear hunting with me this past year, and he was like, "Dad, these are the most." He just called them clowns. He's like, "These things are goofy," and I'm like, "They're comical, yes." I'm like, "This is why I enjoy hunting them. Is like they have each one of them's got a personality, and most of the time they're just." I always like to say is like if they come into the bait, because I wanted him to get the experience, so we hunted over bait, and I said, he knows we're here. I said, but he's willing to take a bullet or an arrow to get that chocolate. So, it's the only animal that I said, well, know you're there, but is willing to take a bullet just to get a little bit of free meal,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I've been fortunate because my parents had sold the farm and lived in the Upper Peninsula, and my mom still lives up there in the Upper Peninsula here in Michigan. So it's very good habitat for bears.
Yeah.
And I would always put in for the late season. So there was a time there I drew a bear tag 4 years in a row.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, with 0 points because this was the late season. It started the end of September, and everybody else wanted the beginning, and it would take me into bow season, into the October season. And I always filled my tags up there. And then there was one year we were out in the springtime riding around, my mom and dad and I, and we were checking out this old logging camp way back off the road system. We were just we were watching these deer, and this huge bear came out, and I immediately went after it just to see how close I could get. And I got within like 15 yards of this thing. It's just eat grass. You know how they are in the spring.
Yeah.
And finally, the deer actually are the ones that got nervous because I was so close. And they started snorting, and the bear looked at me. We locked eyes, and he spun out of there. And then I told my dad after that, I said, I don't think I'm going to hunt over bait for a while. He's like, what do you mean? I said, I've got to do the spot and stalk thing. I said, I've done it in Alaska. I've got close to them, but I said, I'm not shooting any more bears with my bow unless I'm on top of them, spot and stalk. I just want to do that for a while. So that's how I started to end up going to Prince of Wales and doing that, And actually, I just drew another Prince of Wales tag for next spring. So,
oh, no kidding.
Yeah, I found out a week ago today they had a lot of the drawing results. So I drew a spring 25 tag. So it's just fun. I haven't hunted the spring there. I've only hunted the fall. Yeah. But when they're on them salmon streams, they're on the salmon, and you can sneak in on them. Man, it's a rush.
Oh, I bet, man. Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
You get right on top of them, too. Right on top of them.
Well, yeah, then just like the old chest is going like this, So that's what it's all about right there. And I don't think people understand that. They just don't get it,
No.
As a hunter, so.
Yeah, doing any of that. If you're not getting excited, I get just as excited shooting a doe as, with my bow than I would a buck. It's just, like I say, it's just how it comes about and the whole situation,
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree 100%. And I think we've lost touch with that,
Oh, yeah.
As a hunter, I don't know. There's a lot of reasons, I think. And a lot of it is fast-paced life, social media, keeping up with the Joneses, all the above, you know what I mean? And, just growing up in the industry, archery industry or whatever, and seeing other folks that made tons of money in a different sport or other, other avenues, real estate, whatever it be. It seems like that's the first thing they want to do is flock over to the hunting industry. Like, there's a ton of money here. I don't get it. I just don't get it. And I'm like, I wish you people would do more positive impact. And this is where we're circling back around to close up is, Fred advocated and devoted his whole life of promoting the sport and not promoting himself.
Right.
And, I try to do that with the S3DA program with the kids. We do a ton with them and with my kids, and whoever wants to learn is like, somebody comes up to the house and into the shop, I'm dropping what I'm doing, and we're getting kids set, And I think we've lost touch with just a good, honest sport that it's therapy for the whhole family, really. You don't have to hunt, right. But with the S3DA too, it's archery, indoor, and conservation. We're learning and bow hunters ed, so being able to teach them all those 4 principles or disciplines there, man, it's a good thing. It's a good feeling too.
It really is. I'm the past president of Michigan Traditional Bow Hunters. And anyway, we started a program while I was president. It's called the Lost Bow Campaign. And what we do is we get bows into kids' hands. And actually we'll even do an adult, but mostly we just focus on kids that, just to say you see that you're out shooting your bow and the neighbor kid comes by or whatever, and it shows an interest in archery. So you would nominate that kid through our program, and we'll get a recurve in their hand or a longbow and arrows and everything. And we get them involved in archery, and so the program has really taken off. And we're doing it actually in the last 10 days, 12 days, I've given 2 bows to kids.
Oh, no kidding. That's
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. And it's great. And the one guy, it was just kind of funny. He actually lives in a town near me. So I took the longbow over to his son, who's going to be 8 years old. And I mean, just a great kid, you can tell he's being raised right. His parents are, good people. And, and him and we sat there and had a conversation on the tailgate of his truck while his son that I just gave the bow to is shooting it. And he's just so happy. But I just told him, I said, this reminds me of when I grew up and what we would do as a family, with my dad. With my dad and I would do that. You doing this with your son and getting the whole family involved is what doesn't take place anymore. I said, it's just real basic, and we were just talking about life in general. And I said, people are making it too complicated. It's real simple. Just surround yourself with good people, do the right thing. And that's it. It's not that difficult, put your family first. I mean, that's what's most important, and if it's not necessarily hunting, maybe like you said, it's camping or going fishing, but get them away from the internet and all that and do stuff that's family oriented, and like I say, just surround yourself with good people, do the right thing. Well,
and there's a lot to be said about that. And I think we've gotten off course of that. Society in general. That's why we've resorted back to, after this year, it's back to homeschooling. We just don't like how things are,
No, I understand 100%.
It's up to us to change it. I'm not going to wait for somebody else to change it because it's never going to happen. So it's you do that. And then, hey, so if my circle of people gets smaller every year, but that circle gets stronger every year too. So,
I don't have time for negative people in my life. I want positive thinking people that have the same, and it doesn't mean they're necessarily hunters.
Right.
You used to be a good person. And if you're not going to be a good person and don't have good family values and good outlook on stuff, I don't need you around me.
No.
I'm sorry. I'd rather, you know what I mean? And that's just how I have always lived my life. And, wife always put it up. She's like, man, all the people you hang around with are just, they're straight up good people. I said, yeah. And that's
I don't want that.
Yeah. I want good people around me. I don't need negativity in my life. There's enough other crap going on in the world. I don't need people,
Isn't that the truth? Yeah.
It's simple. And then if you live your life like that, you're having fun every day. You're
100%.
Yeah. 100%. Just don't overthink stuff and just have fun. Enjoy life, and that's what I've always done. So,
yeah. Well, and that's what and I just want to be left alone. Right. So it's like one of the things, let me do my thing. Let's try to have a good outlook on the things that we enjoy and promote that, whether it's a sport or family values or whatever, and go with it. And I'm the same way. We're the same way,
And back to your point, support other people that are hunting around you. Maybe they don't hunt the way you do.
Right.
They're not breaking laws. So what? Be there for them.
Well, exactly.
They're out. Exactly. So that's, I don't know. It's pretty simple.
Well, it is, and I think it just needs to get back to that, and hopefully, people will start getting that type of mentality again, rather than, you look around, you see the ones that call themselves trophy hunters. They usually get themselves into something that they can't get out of. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or they got a lot of money that they get themselves out of. You know what I mean? So
it goes both ways. But or they're the so-called experts on social media. I know a couple years ago, I seen someone was talking about black bear hunting and giving all this advice. And then I just was watching the feed off of it, and someone said, how are you giving advice? You've only killed 2 black bears in your life and you're acting like you're an expert. And this, and someone just called them right out on it. And then it started back and forth. I go, here we go, but this is what people think this person is an expert and everyone wants to be, but are you really an expert, or it's self-promoting, but in the wrong way?
Well, it is. And you see a lot of that on YouTube. YouTube's a great way to go get your feet wet. But it's also, you can learn a lot of bad things on there too. A lot of bad habits, a lot of bad techniques, and just things in general. Bad bow technicians, and things like that. So it's, and I think I think everything, I just point the finger to social media a lot, you know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I'm not saying it never existed back then, but it wasn't in your face like it is now.
Exactly.
You know, because everybody walks around with these things and, you know, and I hate them. I think it looks like my dad's.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, but it's a tough life now. I think, you know, because of that. And only because of that. Well, there's other things obviously too, but a simpler life, I think, is what folks have gotten away from.
Well, the other thing about social media is I think that someone maybe new getting into out hunting or whatever, and because it's always in your face, I think that they need to live up to the expectations of some of these people that they're seeing online. And you get discouraged maybe, and you're like, I don't even want to do that. Or people are negative towards them because they maybe shot a smaller buck. Or don't be negative, be positive. And don't worry about what everybody else is doing. Just do what's right for you and makes you happy. And if it's shooting a spike or a doe every year, then so be it. Don't worry about what the next guy's doing. Or if you want to set goals for yourself, so be it. But don't worry about what the next person's doing. Worry about you.
Well, exactly. There's a lot of factors into play on that. You know, shooting a spike or shooting a mature animal. A lot of folks don't have cream of the crop property of maybe that spike was the only animal on that property.
Right.
You know,
right.
There's not a 180-inch whitetail behind every tree. No, sorry, it's not there.
And, you know, like I always say that living east of the Mississippi, we're geographically challenged on what species of animals we can hunt. Yeah. Okay. Because we just have turkeys, white-tailed deer, and black bears. Okay.
Yeah.
That basically, unless we hunt predators. Going out west where you guys are, it just opens up a whole nother thing. But on the other hand, depending on where you live, because I was talking to a friend of mine that lives in Idaho, and he's like, man, he goes, I'm lucky to put tension on the string maybe 2 or 3 times the entire season. And you can do it multiple times, probably a week. I said, oh yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so there's a trade-off there, you know.
100%. 100%. You know, that could be, you know, terrain here is a determining factor a lot, you know. It just puts a hunt in, and and you get a lot of experience that way.
Right.
You know, as far as, well, we know they're there, I just can't get down to them, you know. Or a lot of times I've been down in a deep, dark drainage and I didn't shoot a bull. I did not shoot it because I knew that I was not going to be able to get it physically able to get it out of there.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, was it a bad hunt? Nope. Not at all. You know, I wouldn't trade that experience. In my book, he's on the wall because I could have killed him. You know?
Right. Yeah. Right.
Know?
Yeah.
But
I understand that 100%. You know, I let a buck go by all season, and I wanted my wife or daughter to get it. And he's a really nice wide 8-pointer. And I shot a smaller one with my bow, you know, but I let that one go, hoping that they maybe would get it. And he made it through the whole season. But so many times I had him at 10 yards in my tree stand, you know. And so he's I could have killed him, and he's a nice buck, but I'm glad that he made it, so that hopefully this year he'll be around and one of us will have an opportunity. You know,
you might not pass him up this time.
No, I won't. You know, and I passed him up the day before I shot a buck at my bow this year, and the next day I shot this big 6-point. But this deer come out feeding on acorns, and he was his body was massive. And he was only a 6-point, you know, and the small rack too. And I'm like, well, that's going to fill the freezer, and that's the first thing went in my mind. And it was the middle of the day.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, middle of the day, like at 1 o'clock. I just, you know, was off work that day, and I came up to the house for like a half an hour, went right back out and climbed in the same stand, and wasn't in there 10 minutes, and here came a deer. You know, and it just eating on acorns in the middle of the day, and I'm like, yeah, that's perfect. You know,
100%. Yeah,
yeah, it's gonna fill the freezer. So,
yeah, you can't beat that. I kind of miss some of that Midwestern tree stand hunting. You know, with whitetail and things. We used to hunt Illinois a good bit when it was a draw tag, and And then, you know, the average person just can't afford to lease land there anymore. You know, it's just ridiculous.
That's everywhere. Even in Ohio, I mean, my buddy owns a couple farms down there, and I was on one of his farms for several years. Two other guys leased the farm through the whole entire archery season. They're from North Carolina, and he only would let me go down there during the gun season, which was fine to kind of keep people off of it and everything. It was 840 acres.
Oh, no kidding.
So I had the whole place to myself, which was great. But finally, they went to him. This is going on 5 years ago now, and they almost tripled what they were paying him to lock it up for the entire season because they didn't want me hunting anymore because I was killing all the big bucks with my muzzleloader. They were upset about it, you know, and they're like, well, every year he kills a big buck with his muzzleloader, which was fine for me. But my point is, he felt bad. And I told him, I said, Jeff, when they're offering to pay you on the lease, you'd be a fool not to take it. Don't worry about me. We're still friends. You have to take, I understand, you know, and he felt bad, but I go, don't feel bad about it. If they're going to pay you money like that for a lease, for the money that people are paying for a lease in Ohio, including some of my good friends right now, I could go to Alberta or Saskatchewan on a fully guided whitetail hunt.
100%. Yeah. I'm not, kill a 300 pounder.
That's it. I want to kill a big bodied whitetail. I know that sounds crazy. I like killing big bodied deer.
Sure.
You know, it's just what I like doing. But if the rack's huge to go along with that, then so be it. But I'm not going to go down in Ohio and spend that kind of money because I've got whitetail deer right here in my yard. But that's just me personally, you know.
Well, sure. Well, I would take that as a compliment, Jim. I would take that as like, man, those guys think I'm an absolute killer and I'm taking all their bucks. So they're trying to get me out of there because I'm a better hunter than they are. So I think that.
I think I just get lucky. I didn't look at it as taking it as a compliment.
Yeah, I take that as a compliment. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I didn't look at it that way.
Yeah, I take it as a compliment for sure.
Yeah.
Well, Jim, we've been on the air here for about an hour, and I do have a couple questions I'd like to wrap things up with, and one is, what's your favorite stick bow from the Bear archery lineup? What is your preference, I should say?
All right. If I didn't do a lot of out-of-state hunting and traveling, I would probably just shoot a Super Grizzly or a Grizzly. An older one, though, from Grayling. I mean, nothing wrong with the new ones. I like the new ones, too. They're great, too. But that's my preference to hunt with would be a one-piece bow. But because of traveling, it just doesn't work. Or my original 59 Kodiak. But my go-to bow is a takedown A-handle. That's my go-to bow that I do. And I guess I've hunted with a takedown, you know, a Bear takedown. Yeah, I'm getting old. Probably 35 years now. Yeah. For 35 years, you know, I hunted with a B handle forever, but my go-to bow has been A. And now with that reintroduction to the 50th anniversary A handle, that bow is just it. You know, like that, I love that bow. And that's, you know, with the number 3 limbs. So it's a 60-inch bow. And I'm shooting either 55 or 60 pound limbs. You know, I drop down a little bit in weight as I'm getting older. Plus, you realize you don't need all that. But, yeah, that's my go-to.
Yeah, what do you think about that? When you say you don't need all that, it's like these guys need to shoot 80 pounds and a 700-grain arrow to kill something. All
right. I'm an advocate for shooting heavy arrows. Okay.
Sure.
If you know, I like shooting a heavier arrow. But, you know, in 2020, I shot a caribou in Alaska, and I was shooting 55-pound limbs, and I was just, man, I can't believe I'm only shooting 55 pounds. You know, up here moose hunting, but I shot this caribou at about 15, 18 yards, and the arrow just blew through it like nothing. Like nothing. I mean, literally just, you know, we found the arrow on quite a ways on the other side of where I'd shot the caribou. So that was a firm, you know, I'm like, and then I started thinking, well, yeah, you used to hunt with like 35, 40 pounds when you were a kid, and you were killing whitetails with it, you know, but, you know, so, I mean, if you're just hunting whitetails and that, I don't know. People do it all. I mean, people kill moose with 50-pound recurves, you know?
Yeah.
So it's shot placement, you know?
Agreed.
You know, it's real simple. But do I think you need that higher weight? No. some people like shooting. I got a good friend of mine. He's in his 70s, and 2 years ago he ordered a brand new longbow. He's always shot a longbow, and he goes, I'm getting old. I dropped down. He goes, I ordered a brand new bow. It came out at 62 pounds. I'm going to have it, and it's great, because he's in his 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And he got it, and I said, Ed, what do you think? He's like, yeah, I can't shoot it. I go, what do you mean? He goes, I can't hit nothing with it. Because I went back to shooting 75, 78 pounds, and I'm deadly accurate.
No kidding.
Yeah, he shoots high pounds, and he's still doing it, and he's in his 70s. He goes, I just can't shoot a lower poundage bow. And he's
used
probably,
to it, right?
Yeah, and he's really, honestly, he's probably one of the best traditional shots I've ever seen. He's methodical. Kidding. I mean, he's got a system, and he's deadly. He's a killer.
Yeah.
He's a killer.
It's one of those things where you get used to it,
Yeah.
You get used to that certain pounds, anything, the whole shot system, of what you do. And if you're not used to that, maybe he's releasing too soon or whatever. There's a lot of factors. And
he's methodical. Like I say, I mean, he draws so slow, and he comes to anchor, and he's just like, I can't do that, right. The way he draws it, but that's how he's always shot, and mm-hmm. I've always shot 60, 65 pounds. So dropped down to 55. I was a little worried, and it's like, no problem. I've shot since then. I've shot a couple bear let's see. I shot one of the bears in Alaska with that, and tons of deer, no issues,
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
I kind of like the old mag riser. I don't shoot it as good as I do the SK. The SK is my favorite. I like it, and the Kodiak. That 59.
All of them,
nice.
yeah. I like.
Yeah, they're all nice. Yeah.
But my my number one bow is an A-handle takedown.
Yeah.
So.
Have you shot the new riser, the Fred Eichler's new riser? Have you shot that yet?
No, I checked it out. And Neil and when it first came out, they had it at the Kalamazoo Trad Bow Expo there, and when it first came out. But I haven't personally shot it. No.
Yeah, I haven't either.
No. I've got the Fred Bear Camel mag risers, and I've used that turkey hunting and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm turkey hunting, I'm just always grabbing different bows, and I'm always grabbing different bows when I'm hunting around here.
Right.
But
oh yeah.
But when it comes down to like I'm traveling, and I'm just focused on using that takedown A-handle. So.
Oh yeah. Well, once you get used to something, you're comfortable with it. It's like that's where your confidence is.
Yeah, like 20 some years, I hunted with a B handle. An old green stripe B handle. For 20 something years, that's all I used. And in that time, there'd be times I'd grab one of my grizzlies and hunt too. But I just used that B handle takedown, exclusively. It was one of the first out of Gainesville. So when they moved out of here, and the reason I went to that is because somebody had stolen my Black Bear Magnum out of my truck. It broke the back window.
Kidding.
Stole it, yeah. I used to just keep it up in the dash because in hunting season, and I was at work when I worked at a different place, and they broke the back window out and stole my bow. So. I had a grizzly.
Detroit.
Yeah. And I had a grizzly I was shooting, and I was at shooting with a bunch of friends, and the guy 1 week was shooting with us, and he bought the brand new green stripe, and just came out of Gainesville. It was a new thing, and I was like, man, I'll never be able to afford one of them, and so I was thinking. And the next week we were shooting with the same group, and this guy came over, and he's like, "Got a minute?" And I'm like, "Yeah." You wouldn't be interested in buying this bow off me, would you? I go, well, you just got it. He goes, yeah, my wife found out how much I paid for it. She's not too happy. I said, really? So he gave me a killer deal on it, and I ended up buying it. I didn't have the money at the time, but that was my go-to bow for over 20 years, So I got that. But yeah, so anyway.
It's always nice. I kind of always look around and see if you can find some old bows and things like that, but I've always been afraid of buying a bow that somebody else has had unless I see it, And you don't see too many, bear out here, old, 50s or 60s, 70 models, you don't see them out here that much. And you see them online. I'm like, man, I'd really like to have that. It looks, it's really nice looking on the, just different glass,
Yeah.
Some of the old vintage stuff. And I'm like, yeah, no, my luck, it'll get here, and it's like just blowed apart or something,
Right.
But yeah, it's nice seeing those old things. And like I say, I have that old one that's been around in the family. So
Yeah.
And it's 38 pounds, and
Yeah.
I killed when you was talking about poundages. I mean, if I remember correctly, I mean it killed that doe deader than door now. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it was perfect.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
Heck yeah. Well, it's that was one of my questions. Yeah, I just wanted to know what was your favorite bow. Just kind of like me, whatever feels good, whatever feels, and
Yeah.
everything else just sits on the wall. You know.
Yeah. Most of them all sit here, but and I do like Super Kodiaks too. Like I say, I like them all, but because I'm always been fortunate in traveling a lot lately and doing all that last several years, I just shoot the takedown. I shoot it really well. So
yeah. Oh heck yeah! And what's one of the things that you would tell or inspire like new archers that didn't get some of the experience you did growing up? Like what's a message that you would say to them?
I always tell everyone, don't overthink it and enjoy yourself. All right. And if you start overthinking it, you're going to start not liking it. Maybe.
Yeah.
I have a couple of friends of mine that just got like way overthought shooting their longbows, and they don't even bow hunt anymore.
Yeah.
And they went to elevated rest. They went to this. I'm like, what are you guys doing? You're getting too technical. So I say just go out and enjoy it. And then the other thing is don't rely on technology so much. Learn to be woodsmanship. Learn about the woods. Learn about the animals' habits in the habitat that they live in, and study that stuff. And maybe look for a mentor, someone that's older that's done it. Most people, and for the most part, are willing to share their experiences and stuff like that. So that's what I always tell you. Don't overthink it. Just go have fun.
Yeah, and there's a lot of folks that I think that can do it. Like with teaching archery and stuff with the kids and things is like because I start them all out on traditional. It's
right.
all a bare bow. They got a piece of wood in their hand.
Right.
Even my kids, it's like, you're going to learn this before you can graduate.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's the thing is like, just keep it simple. I think folks completely get away from that because of the technology that's out there. And it really, I think it takes away from the mind that can't concentrate because there's really nothing hard about it.
Well, I mean, if you look back before all this social media stuff back, like when I was growing up, even when you were growing up and you were doing it, you didn't know what everybody else was doing and you didn't care.
No,
you were just happy to be out there hunting. And if you got an animal, so be it. Or you'd hear from your friends or your parent, your dad's friends that hunted or whatever. And if they got an animal or you'd hear that. And then it was like, great. Now, if you're getting involved and you start looking at social media and you're like, man, this person's killing, doing this. Why can't I do that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You don't know their situation.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
and sometimes you shouldn't.
you shouldn't, right? Because it may not be that good, it may not be all that it's cracked up to be or what it appears to be. So just go out. So anyway, just go out and have fun, enjoy it, try to, maybe get a mentor and just learn woodsmanship skills and just have fun, Don't overthink it and again, gets back to surrounding yourself with good people,
It goes right back to that. Yeah. We're going right back to that is surround yourself with good people and, shooting bear. And like, I love sending the message out from what Bear's head or just from Fred's head, of like what he was trying to accomplish in the archery or bow hunting world.
Right.
And it's one of those things like, I always tell them like, hey, go read a book or go, to do that or just read up on it. I mean, now it's kind of like an iPad. They'll probably, look up, but
just read about the history of it and learn, that it's so fascinating, if you look at like what Fred Bear or Glenn St. Charles or anybody, even Ben Pearson, anybody, look at the hurdles that they had to jump through or what they had to try to accomplish when archery was becoming what it is today. And look at what they did. It's just amazing.
Without social media,
they had to be self-promote themselves and their product. I mean, One person I always said always has gotten way overlooked is Ben Pearson. I mean, look at what
100%.
they did. I mean, it's unbelievable. And, you know, and him and Fred Bear and Glenn St. they were all good friends, you know, and they all worked together on everything, you know. Sure, you know, there's always everyone goes Fred Bear, myself included. But, man, Ben Pearson was something else, you know.
Oh, yeah. That big polar bear.
Yeah.
That he's standing beside. Somehow I have got a copy of him signed that
Really?
On that. Yeah, he's in his suit.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's in his suit. I have a signed copy of that. I'm gonna dig it out somehow. I have to show it to you because now you brought it up. Now it made me think. And how I got that was on the folks' land that I leased in Illinois. They had that and they give it to me.
That's like, really nice. Yeah, that's cool.
It was I mean, there's obviously a bunch of them that he had done, I'm sure, but I have that somewhere and I'm going to dig it out. But just to show you, because I thought it was like, that's an awful strange. Why is he in a suit? I was thinking it because this was years ago.
That's how it was. Know? Yeah, that's how it was. You know, like I say, logistically, just look at the logistics, what they were trying to pull off back then, too.
Yeah.
Because outfitters are different. They didn't have bow hunters coming. This was something all new for everyone. And to do what they did, it's just amazing. Like I say, the whole history and the development of the product and everything, you know, they're innovators. They were all innovators, you know.
And we've gotten away from that. And we've gotten away from that foundation to build something up that didn't take overnight. Now everybody wants to do it overnight. You know?
Right. And they were all good woodsmen too. They knew
100%,
you know, because you know, you always hear that term, don't guide the guide. But back then they basically were doing that because the guys didn't understand archery and what they needed, you know?
No. And there's still a lot of that today with rifle hunters versus, you know, getting up close, you know, a lot of guys would want to go because I want to go different places, but like say for instance, like I want to go kill an oddad and the guy's like, oh, well, you're not using a bow. Yes, I am. Right.
Yep. Yep. Oh, I know. It's weird because some people still, I mean, years ago, this is a long time ago, I ended up getting I always wanted to shoot an axis deer.
Yeah.
So my wife and I, we were just dating at the time. I took her to a safari club banquet. A buddy of mine owns a taxidermy shop, gave me a couple tickets. So I went. Well, anyway, they were auctioning off a free range axis deer hunt in Texas. And nobody wanted it. So I got it for like nothing, basically. Wow. So I called the guy and I said, I want to come down and bow hunt. He's like, what? No. I'm like, well, no, that's what I do. And he's like, no. I said, he goes, I allow gun hunting. And it was just like, all right, well, what about a muzzleloader? Yeah, that'd be all right. So I said, well, you know what? I got the hunt for basically nothing. I'm going to go down to Texas and hunt. So I did. And when I was down there was whitetails everywhere on this guy's place. He showed me where the axis deer frequented and everything. And they come here, there. They will come to this, whatever. So anyway, I shot a nice axis deer with the muzzleloader. Great. But in the midst of all that, him and I became kind of good friends during that few days I was down there. And we started talking about whitetails. And I said, what about coming down here and hunting whitetails? And again, he's like, what is with you in this bow hunting? Why kind of bow hunt? Why would you even want to do that? Yeah. I said, because I enjoy it. So anyway, he agreed to it, and I was going down there whitetail hunting and bringing several of my friends for many years. But here's a guy that he is an avid hunter, but he just never understood archery hunting. And we come down there and he just like, he let us stay at a house on the ranch and we would just go and do our own thing. He had 7,000 acres and we would just go do our own thing and we had a riot, but he was a guy that didn't understand this bow hunting thing,
And a lot of them don't, because they don't spend enough time, to become stewards of the land or
right.
Of the timber, so to speak, because they're in and out.
Well, he told me, he goes, I think it's awesome what you guys are doing. He goes, I love watching you guys shoot around the ranch during the day when you're target shoot. He goes, but personally, I don't have time to do that.
Yeah.
He goes, if I'm going deer hunting, I need to go shoot a deer and I got to take care of this ranch, So this is mindset,
Sure.
So.
Well, he's missing out.
Yeah.
Well, Jim, I know you're trying to get some things finished up there with your article, and man, it's been a pleasure talking to you today.
Yeah, you too.
We'll have to hop back on and talk about how the season's going to start out here this fall and whatnot. So,
turkey season's right around the corner here, and then this fall heading back to Alaska for most of the month of September moose hunting.
Oh, nice.
So,
nice.
Yeah, and then if I draw any other out-of-state tags, so yeah, we'll have to touch base.
Heck yeah! Well, if you draw Idaho, look me up.
Yeah, for sure.
I know where all the bighorn are. Just
all right.
don't ever get to go. I get to be a tag along most of the time because somebody else is. I'll be a pack horse or something. So.
That's good. I like that.
Well, Jim, it's been a pleasure having you on. And hopefully everybody listen there and go over. I know you hate Instagram, but check you out on your page, see some of those good tags that you have, and we'll touch base again soon.
Sounds good, Shane. I appreciate you having me on. It's been a pleasure.
You bet, man. Take care.
Yep.